We kick off this story right in the middle of some serious beef that's been going on for years. A brutal war between the humanoid races, blessed by the god of light, and the demons who serve the god of darkness. After countless battles, a crew of heroes finally reaches the demon lord's castle, determined to end this conflict once and for all. But the journey, my friends, has already been costly. Right at the entrance to the throne room, the group is already getting their asses kicked by a female demon. Theron, one of the buddies, yells for our protag, Kyle, to keep moving while he stays behind to hold the line alone. Kyle obeys, but deep down he knows Theron isn't walking away from this one. And we all know what that means, right? Vest in the chat. They push forward into the throne room, but out of nowhere, several dark spheres rain down on Kyle. He manages to block a few, but there are too many to stop. That's when Urza throws herself in front of him, taking the hit to protect him. The spheres completely engulf her, and she's disintegrated on the spot. After Urza's death, the masked demon finally shows his face, ready for a fight to the death. Consumed by rage, Kyle charges at him like a maniac, not thinking about anything else. The demon, without even blinking, unleashes another barrage of dark spheres, and Kyle barely avoids getting fried, diving behind a pillar. But after seeing the attack's destructive power up close, a feeling of, oh, we're screwed, starts to sink in. The demon's attack is known as Elimination, an OP high-tier spell that just annihilates anything it touches. With magic that broken, Kyle realizes he can't get close enough to land a decisive blow. Left with no other option, he prepares to make an extremely dangerous gamble. He believes he can defeat the demon lord by unleashing all the energy stored in his sword's magic gem. The problem? Doing so comes at a huge cost, one that will probably take his life with it. Aware of the danger, but with nowhere to run, he decides to go all in. Releasing the sword's full power, he charges forward with a surge of strength, shattering the demon lord's defenses. With one final powerful strike, Kyle shoves his blade right through the demon's chest, obliterating the poor bastard completely. But in doing so, Kyle's sword is destroyed, and he's left gravely wounded. Even though he managed to save the world, the price was unbearable. Everyone he swore to protect is gone. His friends, his family, even his home, all wiped off the map by the demons. In the end, victory feels hollow, and for Kyle, there's nothing left but sorrow. Moments later, he collapses from his injuries, accepting death without fear. After all, there's nothing left for him in this world. But suddenly, the demon's magic gem reappears. It starts glowing uncontrollably. Now, with the demon dead, there's no one left to contain it. And if it overloads, it could wipe the entire world off the map. Despite the pain, Kyle drags himself toward the unstable artifact, determined to stop the explosion. As soon as his hand touches the gem, a blinding flash of light engulfs him. A few hours later, Kyle opens his eyes again. He's back in his bed, completely confused, because this shouldn't be happening. He gets up and heads to the window, convinced it has to be a dream. But when he looks outside, there it is. His hometown. Perfectly intact. The very same town he saw reduced to ashes by a demon attack. The sight moves him to tears, but after everything he's been through, he still struggles to believe any of it is real. At that moment, his childhood friend, Lise, walks into the room, calling out for him. The instant Kyle sees her, he's totally bugging out. Lise picks up on his odd behavior and asks if something's wrong. But he remains completely silent. Kyle still thinks this must be an illusion. But right now, he doesn't even care. He's just overjoyed to see Lise once more. Without hesitation, he hugs her. Nervous, she asks what he's doing. But Kyle is lost in the moment and doesn't answer. When she tries to break free, he holds on even tighter, until they lose their balance and tumble onto the bed together. With Kyle now on top of her, the vibe gets super awkward. And our traumatized dude looks ready to make a move. But at this point, he and Lise are not at that stage in their friendship yet. She shoves him away and lands a punch so powerful it sends him flying across the room. Now writhing in pain on the bed, Kyle hears Lise shouting at him for doing something like that without any kind of warning. She admits she's not sure what's gotten into him today, but she would have appreciated a little warning so she could be emotionally ready. Lise leaves the room angrily, forcing Kyle to reflect on his actions. As he does, he notices something unusual. He actually felt the pain from Lise's punch. And it was intense. If this were just a dream, he shouldn't have been able to feel pain at all. This makes him question whether he might actually be in the real world. Kyle stands up and pulls back the sheets, shocked to find the demon's magic gem resting there. This confirms, beyond a doubt, that he's in the real world. He goes to the mirror, studies his reflection, and notices he looks much younger than he remembers. What's more, he distinctly recalls sustaining deadly wounds in his fight with the demon lord, yet now, his body shows no signs of injury, completely unharmed. And Lise is alive. This leads him to believe that he has somehow traveled back in time. The only potential explanation being the mysterious magic item he possesses. At that moment, Kyle's stomach rumbles. He makes his way downstairs, only to be surprised by a meal waiting in the kitchen. It dawns on him that Lise must have prepared it. He sits down, fills a bowl, and takes a bite. It's been so long since he's had a proper meal. A few minutes later, Theron comes downstairs, also looking for food. But when he spots the stack of empty plates, he realizes he's too late. Kyle even polished off the entire pot of stew. As Theron grumbles, Kyle reflects on how surreal this is. Moments ago, they were fighting side by side, with Theron sacrificing himself. Now, seeing him alive feels unreal. Noticing Kyle staring, Theron asks if something's wrong. Snapping out of it, Kyle says he's fine, though he's still unsure how far back he's gone. So, he asks Theron what year it is. Theron, puzzled, tells him it's May 24th, 2823. Stunned, Kyle asks if he's sure, and Theron assures him he's not joking. Turns out, today is Kyle's birthday. So Theron lets the food incident slide. He figures he'll have to go beg Lise for something to eat, which is nothing new for him. As Theron heads off, Kyle stays in the kitchen, needing to think. If he's truly back in time, the next step is clear. He has to talk to his mom. Kyle finds her in the library. When he finally sees her, relief washes over him, yet he can't shake the haunting memory of her violent death in the future. His mother looks up, startled, since Kyle never visits the library at night. He corrects her, explaining that it's already morning. She must have lost track of time while reading. She apologizes for being buried in her books for so long, but Kyle quickly explains that's not why he's here. He admits he has a question about magic, and since she's one of the nation's rare archmages, he knew she'd be the perfect person to ask. His mother agrees to hear him out, so Kyle asks her if she knows any spells in existence that can return someone to the past. Kyle's mom responds by saying that spells like that do exist, which catches him off guard. He's never heard of any time-related magic before. She explains that while time magic is real, very little is understood about it. Even though its existence is acknowledged, no one has ever been able to use it. The reason is simple. The spell demands an unimaginable amount of magic, far more than any mage in the world could ever hope to possess. Even if the most powerful mage tried to cast the spell using every last bit of their magic, they'd barely manage to go back a single second. Kyle then asks if it would be possible to travel years into the past with the help of a magic item. After giving it some thought, his mom admits that if a magic item were used to store enough power, then time travel might actually be possible. But gathering that much energy would take more than 1,000 years, so she doubts it's a viable option. Kyle then asks if someone could use the forbidden rite, but his mother is more alarmed by the fact that he even knows about such a spell. Kyle quickly covers it up, claiming he only came across it in a book and doesn't really know the details. His mom feels relieved after hearing that. The reason she was so concerned is because the forbidden rite involves sacrificing one's life force to gain magical power, making it extremely dangerous. But even if someone were reckless enough to try it, she still believes that using time travel magic properly would be nearly impossible. Pulling off something like that would require sacrificing half the continent's humanoid population. As far as she's aware, no one is ruthless enough to commit such a horrific act. Not to mention, there isn't even a catalyst powerful enough to hold that much magical energy in existence. But if such an artifact truly existed, there would likely be records of it somewhere. She walks over to the shelf, pulls out a book, and flips through its pages. After a brief search, Kyle's mom finds the relevant passage and points it out to him. It's a section detailing the legendary divine dragon's heart. Legend says the ancient kingdom of Zarls thrived for thousands of years thanks to the energy contained within the divine dragon's heart. However, once the gem's power was exhausted, the kingdom fell into decline. Kyle's mom thinks that an artifact as powerful as the dragon's heart might be capable of storing enough energy to make time travel a reality. But it's been missing for over 1,000 years, so it's possible that it has fallen into the hands of the demons by now. Kyle starts to piece together what happened, as it's evident that the gem he got from the demon lord must have been the dragon's heart. Kyle's mom appreciates that they're finally spending time together again, admitting she was worried he'd been keeping his distance. Kyle apologizes and assures her it wasn't intentional. She's not upset, though, just glad he came to visit. Still, she can't help but notice that he seems a bit more grown up than usual. Anyway, she recalls that Liz mentioned she'd be coming over to cook for them today. So, she asks Kyle if he wants to head upstairs to eat, but before she goes, Kyle admits that he already ate everything. She's taken aback at first, but then quickly collects herself and says it's fine. After all, it's his birthday. Still, since he finished all the food, that'll count as his birthday present. Talking with his mom proved to be really helpful, as Kyle learned a lot of valuable information. He now knows that the object is actually the divine dragon's heart and that the masked demon most likely embedded a time travel spell into it to send himself into the past. Still, Kyle can't figure out why the masked demon would want to go back in time in the first place. Right then, Liz approaches Kyle, and the moment he sees her, he starts apologizing for his behavior earlier that morning. He explains that it was because of a terrible nightmare. Curious, Liz asks what the dream was about. Kyle confesses that in the dream, she died, and with that, she realizes why he had hugged her so suddenly. Liz smiles and says she's willing to forgive him, knowing it wasn't really his fault. But that gentle smile only makes Kyle think about everything he's destined to lose. Their village borders the demon territory, which means that when the invasion starts, they'll be the first to face the demon's assault. The village was eventually reduced to ashes and Liz lost her life in the midst of the destruction. From that day forward, Kyle vowed to avenge her. But now, here she is, alive and well. Liz notices his sudden silence and asks if something's bothering him. But Kyle is lost in thought, knowing that if he doesn't act soon, then in 3 years he'll lose everyone he cares about all over again, and he's the only one who knows what's coming. He refuses to let history repeat itself. No matter what, he vows to change the future and protect everyone from the tragic fate that awaits them. The scene cuts, and the next day, we see our hero out in the forest, squaring up against an image of the Demon King he cooked up in his own head. He tries to dodge the imaginary attacks, but one of them clips him. The thought hits him. The Great Invasion is only 3 years away, and he's never seriously trained in this world. Wasting no time, he pops his strength and haste spells and notices they're packing way more of a punch this time. His magic power has also leveled up, and he decides to go for a full-on suicide charge against the Demon King's image. But, just as you'd expect, he gets rocked by another attack and hits the deck. He figures that even with more power, his body just can't keep up, and even a desperation move is useless. Dying now would be pointless. After all, this whole journey is about getting stronger so he can, live a long, happy, and healthy life. Meanwhile, from a distance, Theron and Liz are watching this whole thing, completely clueless. They're wondering if he's lost his marbles or something, 'cause since yesterday he's been looking like he's about to have a full-blown meltdown. Theron mentions that just 3 days ago, Kyle would have called it quits after 50 staring contests, and by the way, he never once won. Right then, Theron's mom, Layla, shows up, asking if her idiot son is managing to feed himself. Liz, holding nothing back, totally rats him out, saying he's been coming over to her place to beg for food every single day. Layla decides she'll get the full story on that later, because she's looking at Kyle wondering what kind of monster he's fighting. Even she can tell he's like a completely different person and wonders if something serious went down. Liz agrees, saying that just the other day he had dead fish eyes. Theron chimes in, remembering how his buddy's life goal was just to blow his inheritance and screw around. That's when Layla comes to a conclusion. She says only one thing can change a man overnight like this, and she's dead sure it's a woman. Lise is totally shocked by this, and with that reaction, Layla instantly realizes something's not adding up. The number one suspect just outed herself, so now she's second-guessing her own theory, while Kyle, from afar, can feel his back burning from all the stares. And well, Lise flips a switch and goes into full-on crazy ex mode, marching right up to him, furiously demanding he confess who the girl is. And he, with absolutely no clue what's happening, can only ask what the hell she's talking about. She accuses him of messing around with someone else and starts shaking him so hard the poor guy actually pukes. Later, to make up for it, she cooks him an extra nice lunch. We see Layla's eating with him too, and Kyle's mom says she's happy she's there. Since everyone's gathered, our boy takes the opportunity to ask a question. He wants to know who in this world has enough influence to sway multiple nations and change the course of history. They start listing off the possibilities, mentioning the high priests of Mother Earth Kairos have that kind of pull. Another person they point to is the great hero Randolph, the guy who defeated the Demon King in the war 300 years ago. Even the elves and dwarves would listen to him. Kyle thinks it over and concludes that, out of all the options, the only thing he can become in the next 2 years is a hero. The decision is made. He has no other choice. As he gets up to refill his plate, the others wonder what's gotten into him. But his mom doesn't see a problem with it. In fact, she thinks it's great he's thinking about his future and that they should support him. The scene changes and we see Kyle buried in books. He thinks to himself that knowing what's coming is a huge advantage and thanks his lucky stars for a good memory. Theron walks in, surprised to see him reading, and asks if he's serious about becoming a hero. Kyle confirms it and asks his friend for ideas. Theron, straight up, says that defeating the Demon King would instantly make him a hero. Kyle shoots back that if he could do that, he wouldn't be in this mess. He then asks Theron what a hero needs. His friend gives the obvious answer, strength. Our protag agrees but says strength alone isn't enough. Intrigued, Theron asks what else is needed. Our guy Kyle starts the list. First, money. A hero doesn't take rewards, but traveling and adventuring are expensive as hell. His friend agrees. Second, connections. Getting special treatment from the rich and famous naturally boosts your own rep. Theron's already starting to think this sounds a little shady. Kyle then reveals that most things in this world can be solved with money and connections. However, sometimes even that's not enough, because a hero also needs luck. He explains that a hero has to be in the right place at the right time when disaster strikes. That's when they step in and save the day. Basically, guys, where there are tears, someone's selling tissues. Theron asks if he's planning on creating problems just so he can solve them. Kyle denies it, saying that even though that's basically capitalism 101, he's not gonna do it. Still, he affirms that he'll use any means necessary to become a hero and doesn't care if his methods are underhanded. Theron finds it weird to hear that from an aspiring hero and asks why he wants it so bad, since it doesn't seem like his end goal. Our protag just says he has his reasons, but for now, Theron will have to trust him. And hey, his friend gets it and leaves. Kyle then starts mapping out a plan. To get funds, he needs to meet that person again. For fame, he can do something about the Arkhen incident, though he'll be cutting it close. Next, we see him telling Layla he's going on a journey. She asks if he's told Soraya, his mom, and he says yeah, and that she cried a little. Layla asks if he also told Lauer, but he goes silent. She says it's good for him to see the world and suggests he take Theron with him, saying he'd make a great meat shield. Kyle is happy for the permission and plays along with the joke, saying he was going to take him anyway, but to use him as a sacrificial pawn. Theron, hearing all this, is justifiably pissed. The next stop is to tell Lise. He says he's leaving in 2 days, and right on cue, she says she's coming with him. He tells her the first stop is the royal capital, Malad, to get what he needs, and only then will the real work begin. She insists on going, but he refuses. She is not happy about this, especially since he's taking Theron. She reminds him she trains with the Oracle Warriors and won't get in his way. He argues that her mom wouldn't want her in danger. She shoots back that, in that case, she'll just apologize at her grave later. He then says he also wants her to stay somewhere safe. And before she can reply, he shuts her up with a kiss. And whoa, that one caught your narrator completely off guard. All I can say is damn, and then damn again. He promises she'll be the first person he comes to see when he gets back, and now she's speechless. All she asks is for him to promise he'll return safely. He promises he won't do anything reckless and gives her a hug. The scene shifts to the city, where they're shopping. They spot an elf, and Kyle recognizes her. It's Urza. He moves toward her in a trance, remembering a night they spent together when she revealed her true name, Excess. Without thinking, he calls her by that name, and she instantly gets defensive. He realizes the massive screw-up he just made. After all, in this world, this is their first time meeting. She tries to attack him, but he stops her, thinking he can't cause a scene here. Using her true name, he uses a power that puts her to sleep and remembers she did mention she'd been to Ramar's before. Lise, seeing them so close, is furious. She can't believe that right after kissing her, he's already making a move on another woman. She decides she can't leave him alone and is coming with them on the trip. Back at his house, Urza wakes up and demands to know how he knows her true name. He thinks to himself he can't exactly tell her that 4 years from now, they're going to fall in love and she'll tell him herself. She says that normally she'd have to kill him to keep him quiet. He just replies that he'll tell her everything eventually. She asks if he even understands how important an elf's true name is. He says he does, but he can't let her kill him. He suggests an alternative, using a contract spell to prevent him from using her name for evil. She's shocked he even knows about that. Lise, on the other hand, has no idea what they're talking about. He explains that contracts are usually for spirits, but in the name of the gods, elementalists can give their true name to bind a human. He lays out the terms. He won't give her true name to anyone or use it with ill will. She asks if he knows what happens to those who break the contract. He knows, he'll kick the bucket. Since she sees he's serious, she agrees to it. She warns him she can only forge the contract under a full moon, and the next one is 2 weeks away. They'd have to stay in town till then, but he shocks her by saying he's leaving tomorrow. And just like that, the next day Kyle and his friends leave. His mother worries, but Lise tells her not to, saying she'll take care of him. Kyle's father tells him to watch out for his friends and is surprised to see him there. Man, that's what you call a present father. Kyle tells them both to take care and they head out. Urza, having no other choice, tags along. Lise notices they're heading in the opposite direction of the capital. He explains that now that Urza the Elementalist has joined the party, the capital can wait. Their first destination is the Sunguard Mountains, and he asks if they know the legend. Lise remembers the story of the ancient magic kingdom of Zarls, and Theron asks if it's about the Magic King's labyrinth. He says the labyrinth is just a legend, but Kyle whips out a map of the place, which even points to the treasure room. They think it's a fake and he got scammed, but Urza inspects the map and sees it's made from a 1,000-year-old magic tree using long-lost technology. In other words, there's no fucking way that thing is a fake. Theron and Lise decide to believe her, and he grumbles that they're jerks. Lise sees how massive the place is and asks how long it'll take to conquer it. He tells them not to worry, cause he's got a plan. The plan is to dig. Next thing you know, the group is digging a tunnel straight to the treasure room. Theron asks why they're doing this, and Kyle explains the labyrinth is huge, full of traps and magical robot weapons. This way they bypass all of it. The visionary is a genius, you can't deny it. Theron gets suspicious, asking how he knows all that since it's not on the map. Kyle thinks to himself, cause they gave me so much trouble last time. Still, he warns that even if it's a legend, they have to be on their guard. Kyle reflects that he never thought his first job as a hero would be digging a tunnel. Urza agrees and complains, asking why they're making her use a spirit just to dig. Kyle says it's saving them the cost of magical equipment. Theron keeps digging, but she stops him, warning that she hasn't reinforced the wall there yet. She asks Kyle to use Detect Magic to confirm the treasure's location. Theron remarks she seems the most into this whole thing. Kyle says it's cause she's the serious type. She then tells them to move their hands, not their mouths. At night, we see the group chowing down on a meal made by Lise, and everyone's loving it. Urza asks if she caught the bear herself. She confirms it. The elf, curious, asks if she used a trap. But the redhead says nope, she took it down with her bare hands. Later, the two girls are taking a bath together in a tub Urza made with a water spirit. She says she figured out the trick for long journeys. Lise gets a little jealous, saying magic is nifty and that she can't use it. Urza replies that taking down a bear with your bare hands is already impressive enough and asks if she got so strong for Kyle. Lise says yes, but she also felt she needed to do it for herself. She tells Urza not to worry too much about her true name, cause she's sure Kyle would never do anything to make them cry. She knows he's hiding something, but she's going to wait until he wants to tell them himself. Urza gets it. Lise then says she'll take responsibility if he ever tries to hurt her. Suddenly, she notices Urza has a heart-shaped birthmark on her butt, and the elf gets super embarrassed. Meanwhile, Theron is trying to sneak a peek at the girls, but Kyle is doing his best to stop him. Time passes, and the digging is almost done. Urza asks Kyle where Theron is, and he says he's out on a break. She takes the chance to ask him why he really wants to be a hero. She says Theron and Lise aren't prying because they trust him, but she's different. She notices the rings on his hands and says she knows they're for training. Realizing she's caught on, he explains that each one increases his weight by 2 or 3 times and that he's working on his physical fitness. She wonders why he's pushing himself so hard and if it's connected to him knowing her true name. Before he can answer, he breaks through the labyrinth wall. He calls over Theron and Lise, and they step into the treasure room, met with a massive pile of gold and jewels. Theron goes absolutely nuts with greed, playing with the money and thinking he'll never have to work again. But Kyle warns the girls to keep their wits about them, or they'll end up just like him. They have no desire to be that disgraceful. While they're all distracted, Kyle slips away to another room and finds the sword he used in the future. The spirit of the sword speaks to him, impressed that a human made it this far. And she's got a snaggletooth, guys. A snaggletooth is a clear sign of trouble. The sword appears in front of our protag in the form of a little girl who praises him for getting past the challenges and arriving safely. But Kyle, out of patience, tells her to shut her mouth, saying his friends will hear her. Acting all sassy, she retorts that he needs to buy her dinner before trying to get fresh. She asks if he even knows who she is, and he shuts her up again, saying he knows she's a copy of King Sildonia Zarls in wisdom and personality, who reigned during the peak of the ancient magic kingdom created by the king himself. In other words, someone did their homework. The sword spirit, shocked, asks how he knows all of this. Kyle says he'll explain everything soon, but right now, he needs to hurry up and face the final challenge. The spirit decides to play along and returns to the gemstone on the sword's hilt. Next, Kyle picks up the sword, and suddenly, the spirit uses her abilities to look inside his mind. She reads the memories of his past life and immediately appears in her human form again, asking if all of that was real. Our protag confirms that it was, and that he has the heart of the divine dragon with him right now. The so-called Sildonia can't believe that time travel magic actually exists. But at that exact moment, Kyle's friends arrive, looking for him. He tells Sildonia to play along because he doesn't want his friends to know about the past yet, and she agrees. As soon as Lise and the others arrive, Kyle starts yelling about how he got a legendary intelligent sword named Sildonia. And in the next scene, we see the spirit has become part of the group too. While eating cookies made by Lise, Sil answers the questions from Kyle's friends. She explains that she's a part of King Sildonia, who left her inside the sword to judge the people who came to claim his treasure. She then tells Kyle that if he hadn't been worthy, she would have activated the final trap, destroying the dungeon and everyone inside. However, she gives him permission to use the sword for now. On top of that, she also tells him to take the magic bag that connects to the treasure room, so he can withdraw any amount he needs. After that, they head to the capital, and Kyle says that now that their pockets are stuffed with cash, they should buy some good quality gear. He then heads straight for the most famous weapon shop in the city. The receptionist greets him coldly and asks if he has a referral from any established customers. Kyle suddenly remembers that this shop is a bit exclusive and that new customers have to deposit some cash before going in. The fee is 10,000 gatels per person. Kyle simply gives him 5 Zarls gold coins to cover the fees for all his friends. The receptionist quickly leads the group inside, where the shop owner, Vespa, greets them. Sil immediately recognizes some weapons made by a famous smith during her reign and starts yapping about how she knew the weaponsmith personally and that he wasn't even that good. Kyle shuts her up, telling Vespa that the girl is very imaginative, and then they distract Sil with some snacks while Kyle goes to see the best armor the shop has. Vespa tells him about the armor made from dragon leather and phoenix feathers, explaining how expensive it is, but Kyle decides to buy it without even haggling. He tells his friends to buy whatever they need. Soon, Lise buys a pair of gauntlets, while Urza buys an amulet with a spirit stone. Theron buys some armor too, and then starts hitting on the receptionist, who runs away thinking he's a creep, something that you and I, watching this video, have already noticed, by the way. After that, Kyle asks Vespa for some magic stones. He shows him one that has explosion magic stored inside. Our protagonist decides to take it, and then asks for a magic stone that would be more effective against reptile-like monsters. The shopkeeper brings out a blizzard magic stone, and Kyle says he'll take every single one he has in stock, along with every bottle of healing potion. Vespa's panic just keeps growing as Kyle continues to add things to his cart, and seeing the full payment in front of him simply blows his mind. Anyway, after the shopping spree, Theron is worried that nasty rumors might start about them, but Kyle says they're leaving the capital tomorrow, so the rumors don't matter. Theron panics when he hears that and decides to hit the bars to try and pick up some girls. My god, these simps live for women, it's incredible. Meanwhile, Lise and Urza, who are healthy people, decide to explore the city together. Sil also wants to eat all the snacks she can, but Kyle stops her to discuss something important in private. As soon as they get to a hotel room, Kyle asks if the future can really be changed. That's when Sil drops a theory that will blow anyone's mind. She says he came to a different universe when he traveled to the past. The future won't be exactly identical, but the major events will stay the same, like the Great Demonic Invasion 3 years from now. However, the future can be changed if they make an effort, and that's enough for Kyle. Suddenly, he realizes that since he came to this world with the divine dragon's heart, this universe's version of the same heart must still be with the Demon King. Sil hears his worries and says she has a theory about that, mentioning that the most taboo forbidden spell fuses souls to increase magic power. They tried to research it back in her day but failed badly. She then asks Kyle to think about what happened to the soul of the Kyle from this world, because he obviously came from another one. He suddenly realizes that his soul fused with the soul of this world's Kyle, and Sil tells him that he achieved the soul fusion that the most genius researchers of her empire couldn't. Kyle remembers his magic power had greatly increased before, and now everything makes sense. He then asks Sil if there are any side effects of the soul fusion. She says that since this thing has never been done before, and not even the future saw this one coming, nobody knows. Later that night, Lise and Urza are sharing a room. The redhead goes to bed first, while the elf takes a moonlight bath and sips some wine. She starts thinking about how this short trip went better than she expected, and her thoughts eventually get stuck on Kyle. She catches herself smiling thinking about him, but then, suddenly, she realizes they had to do a special ceremony tonight, because it's the night of the full moon. Meanwhile, Kyle is in the woods, catching his breath after an intense training session. He starts talking with Sil about how awesome the sword is. The girl tells him that this sword isn't made of mithril, but before she can elaborate, Urza comes running. Kyle asks why she's in such a hurry, and she reminds him they have to do the contract on the full moon night so she can protect her true name. Kyle also realizes he forgot about it and says they should do it another time because he's really tired. Urza, however, says they can't delay the ritual for another month because her true name is at stake. He reluctantly agrees, and then Urza starts drawing a complex magic circle on the ground. The ritual they're about to do is usually performed when two elves get married. When she heard Kyle suggest it, her heart even fluttered, and she still can't believe she's going to go through a marriage ritual with someone she just met a month ago. Anyway, when she finishes the magic circle, our protag has already passed out. She then wakes him up and tells him to get inside the circle. Next, she activates the magic circle, and Kyle remembers the last time they did this. Urza asks if he swears not to share her real name or use it for evil, and Kyle affirms. She says the contract is complete, but Kyle remembers they kissed last time, so he suddenly kisses her. And Urza, shocked, just like me, who definitely did not see that coming, pushes him away immediately. She shoves Kyle out, calling him a pervert and asking how he dares to kiss her. He says he thought they kissed to seal the deal, but Urza tells him that's a wedding-only thing. Kyle, all nervous, says they should just consider it an unfortunate accident in that case. And Urza snaps, attacking him with fire magic. The next morning, Kyle and Urza are sleepy because of last night's incidents, and Theron is sleepy because he tried to pick up girls all night but got shot down by all of them. Kyle ignores him and turns to Urza, asking if she's going to travel with them even after the contract is done. She replies that she has no choice, because he still hasn't told her how he learned her true name. Kyle is happy to hear that, but then Lise snaps him out of his romantic delusion by asking why they're heading to the city of Arken. Our protagonist panics because he can't tell her the truth, so he says that Syl can vaguely predict the future and she told him to go to Arken. Soon, they reach the city, and coincidentally, Princess Milena of the Zergus Empire is also there. The people gather to get a glimpse of her, and Kyle and his friends join the crowd. While Milena wins everyone's hearts, Kyle's attention is fixed on her bodyguard, Zentos, who was one of his close friends in his past life. Zentos also notices him staring but doesn't do anything on the spot. Meanwhile, Syl asks Kyle if this is the princess he talked about earlier, and he affirms, saying that Princess Milena is going to die 2 days from now. Later, they go to their room, where Kyle tells Syl that Milena is here to pay her condolences to the villages attacked by the Hydra monster. But 2 days later, as she heads to a nearby village, her group will be attacked by that very same Hydra, which will send her to her grave. Although everyone will think it was a misfortune, Kyle thinks it's the result of Milena's stupidity, because she shouldn't have gone to a place where a monster was attacking. Syl says it could also be an assassination attempt, and Kyle remembers there were rumors that her half-brother, Prince Karinas, was behind the attempt, but they were never proven. However, he suspects the prince because he's in the city right now but won't show his face to anyone. Well, Kyle doesn't care about the reasons because the only thing he wants is to save the princess and be recognized as a hero right from the start of his career. Kyle then stands up and says the secret is to rush in and rescue the princess in her moment of need, but the problem is, he doesn't know the exact location where this attack will happen, so all they can do is watch her. At that moment, Theron enters and says he asked around about the princess's plans but couldn't get anything. Kyle asks why he was asking about that, and his friend replies that it's so he and the princess can have their fateful encounter. Kyle feels his blood pressure drop. He felt sick realizing they had the same idea, and Theron just tells him to get in line. Our protag then tells the simp to stop mooing and pay attention, because the princess, it seems, is in real danger, according to a prophecy from Sildonia. And the girl, playing along, just agrees with him. Theron, hearing this, thinks this is his chance and that he has to follow the princess. Kyle advises him not to be rash. The scene changes, and now we're on the fateful day. We see the princess's procession leaving the palace, with Kyle and his friends watching. Lise asks if the princess is really in danger, and Sildonia just replies that this was her prophetic vision. Urza asks how they're going to follow the procession without getting too close. Sildonia explains she'll help them with another of her special abilities. She then transforms into a falcon. Everyone is amazed, but she explains that her true form is the gemstone in the sword Kyle is holding. She then soars into the air and watches the princess's procession from afar, without anyone noticing. And everything she sees, Kyle and his friends can see through the sword. They notice the city guards are protecting the princess. Kyle explains that they're well-trained, but you can't rely on them. At that moment, Urza comments that this is incredible and that, if used correctly, it would be more powerful than a good weapon. Theron, being a simp whose brain is programmed only for mischief, ends up yelling, jealous that Kyle can spy on the ladies whenever he wants. Lise and Urza are surprised by this possibility, and while they're debating Urza's secret, the heart on her backside, which has immense relevance to the plot. They hear Sildonia say that something ain't right. The drivers have stopped the horses and are attacking the guards. Kyle runs and tells his friends to come with him. And as we see the coachmen sending the guards to their graves, one of them throws a magic powder. The moment Kyle and his friends get close, our protag activates a speed buff and charges at them, taking them down and tying them up. Meanwhile, Theron goes to check on the princess and says she's unconscious. Kyle explains they must have accomplices who could show up at any moment and asks Theron to stay with her. Just then, a wolf appears and attacks our hero, but he defends himself and ends the threat. However, he wasn't alone. This time, we see a huge group of wolves in front of them, and they start to attack. While Urza and Lise start taking them down, we see one of the wolves approach and devour one of the coachmen. Kyle asks Theron if he can drive the carriage. Theron tries, but says he can't because the reins have been cut. Suddenly, they hear the footsteps of a huge monster approaching. And from the sound of it, this devil was exactly what Kyle was expecting. Sildonia informs him that it's close. Kyle tells Theron that the princess's safety is the top priority and asks him to stay with her, and for Lise and Urza to help their friend. Urza asks if he's going to fight alone. The hero explains that he won't be reckless, mentioning that he has a card up his sleeve to defeat it. Urza looks at him and tells him not to bite the dust. Kyle then runs toward the monster, while his two friends continue to fight the wolves. Urza then summons a salamander, which appears and sets the enemies on fire. On the other side, we see Kyle running, looking for the Hydra. Sildonia asks if he can really defeat it. He replies, mentioning that its strength is determined by the number of heads, and that he's defeated one with 3 heads before. And at that moment, the Hydra appears. And not even the future saw this one coming because the enemy doesn't just have 3 heads, or a few more or less. That damn thing had like 6 of them. With the monster's roar, Sil just asks if they should run. And the sword wielder just replies that the time to run has passed, now they have to fight. The Hydra then goes on the attack. Kyle thinks to himself that its movements are predictable, but its scales are resistant to sword attacks, and what they really need to be careful of is its poisonous breath. And right then it uses it, filling the area with smoke. Immersed in the chaos, we see that Kyle is fine, thanks to the dragonhide armor that nullifies the poison's effect. He then takes out a magic stone and throws it at the Hydra, which explodes and freezes it. With a dragon skin shield, he attacks and manages to cut off one of its heads. Sil acknowledges that he's fighting better than she expected. The hero says he came prepared, but the monster's regeneration ability is fast. Meanwhile, Theron, Lise, and Urza are still fighting. The elf says she's worried about Kyle. Lise says she is too, but they need to get rid of these hellhounds first. Back to Kyle, he throws another magic stone at the Hydra, freezing it once more. However, it quickly breaks free, and he realizes he only has 1 magic stone left. The Hydra then attacks him. He dodges and cuts off another head, which unfortunately regenerates instantly. With that, he realizes the regeneration is faster on this one than on the 3-headed Hydras and that he needs to target the source. Placing all his hope in the last stone, he grabs it and rushes towards his opponent, thrusting his sword with all his might while the monster roars in pain. He then lands a massive punch on it with his magic rings and buries his hand in the enemy, but then gets sent flying and almost gets plastered against a tree, thanks to the massive hit he took. He gets up and sees the Hydra standing, but a green light starts to glow from inside its body. And suddenly, my dudes, it was raining snake bits everywhere. And while our protag is all hyped up for having wrecked the enemy, Sildonia understood what happened, explaining that he shoved a bunch of explosive stones inside it. On the other side, we see the friends have finished off the hellhounds. Urza says they should go to Kyle, but they're surprised to see that as they were going, he was already coming back. Urza asks if he managed to defeat the Hydra by himself. He says yes, but that he faced some trouble. But while they were talking, the girls realized he was stinking to high heaven and ended up running away to keep from puking their guts out. Kyle then decided to wash up right there as best he could. Right after, he goes to Theron and asks about the princess. His friend says she hasn't woken up yet and that it seems she and her handmaiden were drugged. Kyle enters the carriage and sees Urza and Lise sitting next to her. He says they need to give her one of the antidotes they bought. Urza then thanks the fact that they bought it and finds a way to make the princess take it. At that moment, Theron mentions he found something on the ground. Upon seeing what it is, Kyle says that the coachman lured the monsters to attack the princess. He then falls silent, thinking to himself that in the other life, her death wasn't an accident, but an assassination. The scene then changes, and now we see the prince with some commander or whatever, and at a certain point, this commander asks them to send a squad. We return to Kyle and his friends. Our protag enters the carriage and asks about the princess's condition. Urza shakes her head, indicating no change. However, at that moment, the princess starts to wake up. She asks if she's alive. Urza tells her to take it easy. The princess mentions she thought she'd never wake up again and asks if they were the ones who saved her. Theron then rushes forward, thinking now's his time to shine, and says it was he who saved her. But Lise quickly punches him in the stomach and gestures for Kyle to speak. Kyle bows before the princess, says his name is Kyle, and that he and his friends saved her from the monsters. At that moment, Arka, the princess's handmaiden, wakes up and runs toward her, but the princess calms her, saying they were the ones who saved them. The handmaiden, however, says they shouldn't trust strangers, but the princess thanks them. She stands up, but Kyle warns that the situation outside is grotesque. However, she insists on going out. Outside, she goes to one of the tied-up coachmen and stares at him. Turning around, she asks if they are on the road that connects Arken and Sinesh. Our protag says yes. She then asks if all the guards were killed. Kyle says they found them dead when they arrived. Lise notes that the princess seems different than before, and Urza agrees. Then Sildonia warns Kyle that a squad of knights is coming from Arken. He tells the princess. She panics and says they must flee immediately, because this whole tragedy won't just splash back on her, but on everyone there. At that moment, our protagonist questions if her kingdom's guards won't defend her. She says no, explaining that the man who wants her dead is the commander of the 2nd Battalion, Zentos. Kyle is surprised as he remembers seeing him with the princess in the city. The princess goes to Arka and orders her to burn all the bodies. After reciting a spell, she burns everything around. The princess says Zentos wants to send her to her grave at all costs and that burning the bodies will make it harder to identify her. She orders Arka to take the lead and tells Kyle and his friends they must leave immediately. Theron throws that magic bag into the fire and explains that if they want to buy time, the monsters will help delay them. He gets into the carriage and they all leave the place.
As the carriage moves on, we see the princess thanking Kyle and his crew. Our protag, a bit suspicious, asks if it was really Commander Zentos who planned the attack. She confirms it, saying that both he and her older brother Karenis were involved, and that it was her brother who masterminded the whole thing. Theron is floored to hear her brother set this up. Kyle, still in disbelief, asks again if she's sure Zentos had a hand in all this, and she says yes, because she overheard the two of them plotting last night. The scene cuts to a quick flashback, where the princess drops a glass and collapses, fainting. But right before blacking out, she hears the commander and her brother planning the attack. Zentos adds that they'll spread the word that she insisted on going to the village of Sarns, despite the danger. Prince Karenis confirms the plan. The beloved princess would suffer a tragic accident and die a horrible death. And that's the moment she passed out. Back in the present, the princess says she knew her brother always craved power, but she never thought he had the guts for something like this. Her handmaiden, Ninos, tries to interrupt, saying she's revealing too much, but the princess calms her down, saying it's all right. Suddenly, Theron stands up and points at the girl, saying he finally recognizes her. She was the one who used to carry flowers in Archon. The girl gets all flustered. The princess asks if he really noticed, and explains that she was the one who told the handmaiden to change her appearance. Theron, without mincing words, says he caught his eye because she looked like she'd grow up to be a very beautiful woman in the future. And Urza, obviously, is not a fan of that kind of talk. Kyle asks the princess why she did that, and she explains she wanted to win the people's support. Theron whispers to Urza that the princess just admitted her scheme, and Urza just grumbles that human politics are complicated as hell. The princess confirms she never suspected Zentos. She knows her brother is weak, can't govern a thing, and isn't even worth the food he eats. But Zentos' support changes the whole game, since he's a skilled and very popular leader. That's why she was always cautious around her brother, and made sure to take Kurlin and the 5th Legion with her whenever she went out. Kyle is surprised, as he'd heard that this legion was made up entirely of women. The princess confirms it, saying they have so much style they're always called to the capital for celebrations. That's why this time Zentos accompanied her. She admits she should have been more suspicious of her brother. Meanwhile, our protag thinks to himself that even though he can't believe Zentos is involved, he trusts the princess, and for him, Zentos is now an enemy. He warns the princess that since the plan failed, they'll definitely try another attack, and he's sure Zentos will blame him and his friends for it. Lise is shocked, but our hero explains the villain's plan, saying he'll probably call them cruel assassins who murdered the princess's guards. Theron asks what they're going to do, and Kyle says the princess told them everything so they couldn't run away. He then stares at the princess and asks if that's right, and she confirms it. In other words, they're all in the same boat now and have to fight to survive. However, she promises a huge reward if they make it back to the capital. Our protag agrees, but points out he doesn't want money for this gig. He only asks for the credit for all of this. The princess is surprised since that's not a common request, but she gladly accepts it. They then debate the plan. The basic strategy is to buy time until help arrives, as the 5th Legion should reach Archon the next morning and will search for her. Kyle worries they might run into the 2nd Legion on the way, but the princess explains that with the 5th Legion, the forces will be balanced, putting the 2nd Legion in a tight spot. Then Theron suggests hiding in Sarn's village, but our protag kills the vibe instantly, saying it would be a terrible idea. The village would be destroyed just to cover their tracks. After all, if they're willing to do what they did to royal guards, imagine the damage they do to mere villagers. He points out their best chances to head back to Archon, where there are tens of thousands of people, and meet the 5th Legion on the way. The princess interrupts, reminding him they'll also run into their pursuers, and asks if she has a plan. To which he replies, "We'll just plow right through them." The guy's simplicity leaves the princess speechless. The scene cuts to the 2nd Legion, and Sodonia, who's on lookout, reports that Zentos isn't there. Kyle, relieved, says her scouting ability is crucial, and without the commander there, their chances are good. Lise gives some potions to the princess, who notices their high-level stuff. She looks at the group and asks, "So, who are you people anyway?" And Kyle replies, "We're just a group of ambitious heroes who happen to be passing by." Meanwhile, Prince Karanis is furious with Zentos, who tries to calm him down by saying his men are already hunting the princess. The prince doesn't care and tells Zentos to go finish the job himself, but the commander explains he needs to stay. If the princess isn't in Archon when the 5th Legion arrives, Commander Kurlin will interview him, and the prince will have to handle it alone. Realizing things are going to get ugly if that happens, the spoiled lord orders Zentos to eliminate Milena at all costs. We cut back to our protag's group, where the 2nd Legion is preparing an ambush. The commander orders them to aim for the legs to immobilize the targets. The princess's carriage approaches, but before he can give the order to fire, we see several magic stones land in front of them, causing a colossal explosion. The one responsible for the attack was Sildonia. In the middle of the smoke, Kyle appears, driving the carriage like a madman, plowing through the front line. Urza casts spells, adding to the chaos. Theron, ecstatic, screams for the death of all the soldiers. The princess, inside the carriage, thinks the whole thing is incredible. Amidst this chaos, they break through the Legion, while the furious commander orders his men to hunt them down. Further ahead, Theron chugs one of the potions and comments that you can get a lot done when money isn't an issue, while Kyle admits the plan was a bit crude, but it worked. Suddenly, they feel a jolt. One of the wheels of the carriage is broken. Urza says they need to ditch the vehicle. Kyle asks if she can use the Windwalker spell. She says yes, but she's not sure if they've lost the soldiers. Sildonia immediately confirms there were 30 soldiers on their tail. Our hero figures that's not a lot, but there'll surely be a squad waiting at the city gate. With that, he concludes that someone will have to stay behind and hold the line. Urza is shocked that the crazy guy is going to put himself at risk again, but he makes it clear that whether she likes it or not, the priority is to protect the princess. But he then mentions that Theron can delay them on his own. This plot twist was so unexpected that he wasn't even paying attention to the conversation and asked what they were talking about. Kyle tells him he's staying behind to delay the guards, and Thayer is just shocked, not understanding anything. With that, the crew is ready to go, and Kyle tells Urza to cast the spell. Theron still tries to negotiate, asking how he's supposed to delay 30 guards alone, and Kyle just replies, it's going to be tough, but wishes him good luck. And as they run, Theron is left behind, stunned. The guards then approach, and Theron, like a good coward, raises a white flag and says he doesn't want to fight. He begs for mercy, puts all the blame on Kyle, and even offers them the money he found in the labyrinth. And man, if someone told me this guy was such a coward, I'd say I'd have to see it to believe it. And me seeing it now can only say that I don't believe what I'm seeing. Anyway, at that moment, a soldier reports that the princess isn't in the carriage. The commander realizes they fled on foot and orders his men to go after them. Theron asks what they're going to do with him, to which the commander orders his men to get rid of this piece of trash. The guy then begs for his life. Meanwhile, the scene changes, and we see Urza asking Kyle if he's sure about leaving Theron behind. He replies that he didn't want anyone to die, and that's why he did what he did. Lise jumps into the conversation and says she forgot to tell Urza one little thing, mentioning that Theron is way, way stronger than the two of them combined. And I just thought, whoa. And when the scene cuts back to Theron, we see him dispatch the commander with a single blow, while saying that killing the boss first was the right call. After that, I just thought whoa one more time, and I feel honored for never having doubted him in the last few seconds. He then takes off his rings, throws them on the ground, and says he feels lighter now. And what we have for today is a massacre. Theron charges the guards, cutting off heads with absurd speed, detonating magic stones, and making sure the horses run away. Back with the group, Kyle explains that Theron spends a lot of time training alone, and while his magic is almost non-existent, he's much better with the sword than Kyle himself. Lise adds that he never misses a training session, and Urza then concludes that Theron's ridiculous behavior is a disguise to make his enemies underestimate him. To which Kyle mentions that deception is only half the strategy, but even he couldn't hold his own against 30 guards at once, and he says he just wished their deaths weren't necessary.
Back on the battlefield, Theron has already eliminated almost everyone. He faces the 8 survivors and throws his sword away, saying his mission was just to delay them, not kill everyone. He mentions their horses have fled, so they should run, and maybe some of them would survive. The terrified guards run for their lives, and as they're fleeing, we hear a huge explosion. Theron detonates 3 more magic stones, wiping out the last of the fugitives. He sits down and says he never intended to let any of them escape. And man, talk about a character that surprised me. Theron certainly managed to change my opinion of him. Far away, Zentos senses that someone interfered. He leaves the prince with the guards and departs alone. Sildonia warns Kyle that right now, a single knight is heading their way. Suddenly, a spell hits Sildonia squarely. She reports that she's okay, but the attack was too precise. Kyle gets it instantly. The person responsible can't be anyone else. It's Zentos. He then tells the princess to hide and warns his friends to run towards Theron if things go south. The princess asks if he can defeat Zentos alone, and he admits he's always avoided fighting him, but now he has no choice. She gets closer and asks if he really saved her by chance, since he talks as if he knows her, and Kyle gets flustered. However, she says now is not the time for that, but that her fate is in his hands. Our hero promises he will win. Zentos arrives, faces Kyle, and says he can end everything just by killing him. Kyle asks him to surrender, mentioning he'll ask the princess to forgive him. Zentos gets pissed and tells him to stop the nonsense, while our hero asks him why he helped in the assassination attempt. The commander replies that he owes no explanation to a dead man. At that moment, the battle begins. Zentos attacks, but Kyle dodges, and right after, with a quick move, as Zentos is surprised that no one can escape his attack, Kyle thinks to himself that he knows perfectly well how this guy fights. After all, he was the one who taught him in his other life how to be a magic swordsman.
However, after avoiding the first lethal combo, Kyle quickly realizes that he is no match for Zentos with his current physical strength. He gets pushed back quickly, and Zentos starts firing energy blasts at him that make him lose his balance. Zentos decides to go for the kill, but Kyle manages to step on his sword and use the momentum to get away from him. Zentos is offended by his action of kicking a sword, but Kyle tells him that he learned it from his master before tossing an explosion magic stone at him. However, Zentos uses his quick reflexes and hits the magic stone back towards him, causing him to take damage instead. He then quickly attacks Kyle before he can fully regain his balance, but in their clash, his sword starts cracking. Zintos backs away on realizing that Kyle has a better weapon than him, and in response, Kyle once again asks him to surrender because he doesn't want him to die. Zintos replies that the best way to do so is to get killed instead. He knows that he can't waste any more time, so he decides to go for the kill with his next attack. He takes his stance and lets out a terrifying aura, and Kyle gets ready to face him as well. Zintos asks for his name before they exchange blows, and Kyle introduces himself, asking him to remember his name. With that, they charge at each other, and Zintos manages to parry Kyle's strike, leaving him defenseless. He then strikes him with full strength, but his sword shatters because it hits Kyle's plot armor, or rather the divine dragon's heart. Zintos realizes that he is the one at a disadvantage now, and Kyle strengthens his heart as he goes for the killing blow on his friend. He slashes him across the chest, and Zintos falls on his knees, bleeding profusely. He asks Kyle if he let him deflect his sword to bait him into this position, and Kyle replies that he did not. Zintos really beat him in every department, but he knew that he would directly go for the kill, and he was prepared for that. Zintos remarks that he is a strange man and then whispers that he is sorry before passing away. With a heavy heart, Kyle apologizes to him, saying that there are things he must protect at all costs, even if it means killing old friends. He starts crying because Zintos was one of those things that he wanted to protect, but it is too late for that now. Back in the city, Corinus is impatiently pacing around his room, wondering why is Zintos taking so long. Suddenly he hears someone approaching and thinks that it is Zintos, but unfortunately for him, it turns out to be the 5th Battalion Commander Killerin, who orders her girls to storm the room and arrest the prince. Corinus orders them to leave him at once, but then Malma enters the room and he falls completely silent. Malma orders Killerin to arrest Corinus and interrogate him and use force if he refuses to cooperate with her. She leaves the room with that, and the yelling of the bastard prince turns into screams as the female knights start thrashing him. Once outside the room, Malma thanks Kyle and his party for helping her survive this ordeal. She takes them to the royal palace to properly thank and reward them, and Theron and Syl immediately lose all control on seeing girls and food there. Kyle apologizes for their behavior, but Malma tells them that it's no big deal. Just then the king comes there and she rushes to hold hands with him awkwardly instead of hugging him. She then introduces him to Kyle and his group, and only Kyle has enough manners to greet the king properly. However, the king tells him that there is no need for formality here. He thanks his party for saving his daughter and then begins wondering why Kieran would join a plot to kill Malma. He tells Kyle and his friends not to disclose this secret to anyone, and Kyle promises that they won't do anything that harms their country.
Soon after that, a fake official story is spread throughout the kingdom stating that both Malma and Carinus were traveling to a tragedy-struck territory when they were attacked by dangerous monsters. The knights led by Zintos tried their best to protect them, but ended up losing their lives, and Carinus was so severely injured that he is still recovering in some secret location. The part about Kyle rescuing Malma is the only true information that is revealed, and soon the day comes for him to receive his reward along with his party. Kyle is awarded a Medal of Honor for saving the princess, and the crowd quickly accepts him as a new hero. However, the danger to Malma's life still persists because the mastermind behind the attack was neither Carinus nor Zintos, but the king himself. This dipshit is jealous of his daughter because she is much more talented than him in every aspect, and when she becomes the queen, she will make the country great again, which he could never do. He fears that he won't be remembered in history because of her, and he doesn't want that to happen. As the king is wondering what can he do to kill Malma, Kyle enters his room, disguised as an assassin. The king panics on seeing him, but Kyle quickly goes behind him and shuts his mouth before he can scream. He begins talking about how he refused his suggestion to help the dwarves as soon as the Great Invasion began, just to hold diplomatic supremacy. His stupid decision caused the dwarves to lose, and as a result, the demon army could easily enter the heart of the continent and conquer other nations. Kyle says that he couldn't really hold his stupidity against him, but earlier when Zintos apologized to the king with his dying breath, he realized everything. Kyle suddenly pushes the king out onto his balcony with that, saying that it should have been obvious from the start that someone as loyal as Zintos would only attack Malma if he was directly ordered by the king. The king is sweating buckets at this point, but he still yells at Kyle, asking him what difference does it make to him. Kyle starts pushing him towards the wall, saying that Malma might be a shrewd schemer too, but at least she is smarter than the rest of the royal family put together. The king starts struggling to get away and manages to remove Kyle's disguise, but it is too late for that because he gets pushed to his death with that. The guards panic on finding his dead body and think that he slipped from the balcony because he was too drunk. However, to protect his image, the official story states that he died from a heart attack. The news quickly reaches Kyle's party too, and Theron is low-key glad that the king survived just long enough to reward them. Otherwise, they would have to wait a lot to get their medal. He is also glad that Mylma is going to take the throne soon, but the thing that concerns the entire party is that she has summoned Kyle for a private meeting before her crowning. In the meeting, Mylma tells Kyle that she is engaged to Prince Moser of the Gargan Empire, and he is shocked at this news. Mylma explains that their Exargus Empire once made a deal with the Gargan Empire, and in exchange for the territory of Cairn, she was promised to the prince. Now she plans to formally turn down the engagement because the men who decided it were fools and didn't even bother to sign a contract. Moreover, the territory of Cairn is not officially connected to the engagement, so it will remain a part of the Exargus Empire nonetheless. However, Mylma wants Kyle to visit the governor of Cairn and get his approval for calling off the engagement before she can do anything from her side. This job feels like a Syl appears next to him asking what he is so worried about, and he tells her that he is worried about the reaction of the Gargan Empire. She replies that he should be more concerned about Cairn because it seems they're facing some trouble of their own. She points out that the governor of Cairn didn't show up for the king's funeral, which means there's something keeping him really busy. Syl thinks that this is another one of Mylma's shrewd tactics, and she is hoping Kyle will resolve the problem without telling him to do it. He feels a lot better on hearing this because this will help him improve his reputation as a hero, and also because he wants to stay as far away from Mylma as possible. However, he has to meet her once before leaving on the mission, and Mylma asks him to join the royal guards and become her personal knight because she wants him close to her 24/7. Kyle is taken aback by her aggressive flirting and tells him that he has other things to do, but if she ever needs him, he will come running. Mylma suddenly tells him that she was just joking and wishes him luck on his journey, and Kyle throws a tantrum as soon as he is back with his friends because he was low-key hoping that the princess would be interested in him. Anyway, he leads his team back to the elite weapon shop run by the old man Fezba, who is pleased to do business with Kyle again. He congratulates him on his medal and wishes him more achievements in the future when Theron interrupts him and asks if his sword is repaired. Fezba immediately presents him the sword, saying that he got his best craftsman to work on it, but Theron asks if he has something better. The shopkeeper apologizes because he doesn't have anything like that, but he promises to use his connections and find a better sword for him. Kyle then asks him if he knows anything about Cairn because they're going there next, and Fezba immediately tells him that it is a challenging place. He says that the Blacksmith Guild runs the entire city and they have created many problems which has made business difficult for them as well. However, he claims that things have started to get a bit better ever since Cairn became a part of the Exargus Empire. Kyle thanks him for the info, and then Fezba tells Theron that maybe he can find a sword fit for him in Cairn because it has a long and rich culture of weapon making.
With that, Kyle and Theron rejoin the girls, and together they set out towards Cairn. A few days later, Kyle and his party reach the city-state of Cairn, which is built on a mountain. Everyone is surprised to see this, and Lys wonders how could they build a city around the mountain. Suddenly, Syl pops out of the sword, revealing that the people of Cairn did not build the city around the mountain, but they built the mountain around the city. That makes even less sense than Trump's tariff plan to the group. And Syl says that the city was built as a defensive outpost against the demons during the golden era of magic. They later found huge ore veins under the city and used magic to bring them to the surface, creating a mountain in the process. While everyone is marveling at ancient magic, a group of Wyvern Knights belonging to the Gargan Empire fly above them. They head straight towards the city of Cairn, and Theron hopes that the Wyvern Knights have nothing to do with the issue they are here for. They enter the city and immediately go to the embassy to talk. The gatekeeper checks their documents and contacts the ambassador, and in the meantime, Ursa covers her ears because there are a lot of dwarves in the city and they hate elves. Soon, the ambassador Miranda arrives there to welcome them, and Kyle freezes because he had seen her in his past life too. To end the awkward silence between them, Lys pushes Kyle ahead, and the smooth criminal uses that as a chance to grab Miranda's hand and introduce himself. She politely tells him to follow her inside, but Kyle still can't believe that Miranda was working as the ambassador of the Xergus Empire before meeting him. Once inside, Kyle shows Miranda the official letter from Milna, and she verifies its contents. She says that it is just like Milna to send a newly established hero as her messenger. Kyle asks her if she knows the new queen, and Miranda affirms, revealing that she used to be her diplomacy teacher. She then thanks Kyle and friends for saving Milna's life, and then moves on to business. She says that the governor of Cairn is seriously ill, and no one is allowed to meet him. She has tried to reach out to him multiple times over the last few months, but she has been turned down. Kyle gets stressed on hearing this, but Miranda tells him that the queen. Miranda then leads Kyle's group to the governor's residence, and Theron decides to hit the market and find some cute girls that will reject him anyway.
Meanwhile, Miranda makes a stop in front of the Gargan embassy, telling Kyle that if anyone of his group gets in trouble there, they can't help him. Just then, the old ambassador of Gargan Empire arrives there, and his mere presence is enough to make Mommy Miranda uneasy. Next, a tall and refined gentleman comes forward, introducing himself as Alzard, the second highest-ranking court wizard in the Gargan Empire. He says that he is going to meet the governor, and Miranda confronts him, saying she should get to meet the governor first because Cairn is a part of the Zergus Empire. The two of them get locked in a cold war, but then Miranda calls for a truce, saying that they should go together. Alzard agrees to that, and then turns to Kyle, asking about him. He introduces himself as a messenger of the Queen, and Alzard is pleased to meet him because he has heard about his heroic actions. Not just that, Alzard knows Kyle's mom as well, because they studied magic together. He says it is a pleasure to meet the son of an old friend, and stretches out his left hand for a handshake, but Kyle unsuspectingly shakes it. Soon the entire group heads to the governor's mansion, but the servant there refuses to let him in, stating that the governor is still too ill. Miranda lashes out at him, saying that if she has to, she will get rid of him and appoint a new one, and the nervous servant can just agree with her. Seeing that they can't meet the governor, Alzard takes his leave first, but Miranda knows that he won't sit quietly. She is sure that he knows about the engagement being called off, and in such cases, the Gargan Empire usually tries threatening and bullying others. She decides to assign a new governor who can handle any asshole that tries to harass him, and she already has the ideal candidate for that in the form of the best blacksmith in Cairn. Meanwhile, Theron is wandering the city because he can't find a pretty girl or a good weapon. Suddenly, he hears a girl screaming and finds her being harassed by a group of guys. Theron immediately punches away the molesters, but it turns out the person he saved is a guy who just looks like a girl. Theron freaks out on learning that he failed to differentiate a guy from a girl, and he decides to leave the poor femboy to his fate. However, he suddenly gets an idea, and he asks the boy if he has an older sister who is as cute as him. The boy affirms, and that is enough reason for Theron to resume protecting him, and the thugs are flabbergasted by the levels of simping they are seeing. Anyway, the thugs attack him, but it doesn't take any effort from Theron's side to beat them. The guy thanks him and then introduces himself as Go, an artificer who creates magic items. Theron asks him why these men were attacking him, and Go replies that they were debt collectors. At first, Theron thinks that Go is suffering from some family problem that forces him into debt, but then he learns that he got a rich man to invest in his project without telling him that it will take 10 years to finish, and that is why he sent the goons to attack him. Theron Loki agrees with the debt collectors now, but he doesn't really care if he can meet Go's sister and score with him. At this point, Go reveals that his sister is already married, and he hid this fact on purpose because he knew that the Simp Lord wouldn't save him otherwise. Theron is completely devastated now, and he hits Go when he tries to act cute after all this. On the other hand, Miranda goes to the residence of the dwarf blacksmith Gazus to convince him to become the new governor, but he is not interested in politics and similar bullshit. Miranda fails to even budge him from his stance, and Kyle realizes why she wants him to become the governor in the first place. Just then, Theron arrives there with Go, who turns out to be the son of Gazus. Go sees that Miranda is trying to convince Gazus for something, and he knows that since they are both stubborn, it will take a lot of time, so he invites everyone to have tea in the meantime. While Go prepares tea, Kyle and his friends look around. Kyle remarks that Go looks more human than dwarf since he's the son of a dwarf, but Go replies that he is fully human. He explains that his mother had him and his sister before marrying Gazus, and she died a couple years ago. His sister also got married recently, so it's just him and Go who live here now. He suddenly notices Theron holding a bottle of superglue and tells him to keep it back before bringing tea for everyone. As Kyle tries to clean the table, he sees a blueprint that leaves him shocked, and Go tells him that it's an ancient magic weapon that he is trying to restore. Kyle clearly remembers the giant Hulkbuster golem that he fought alongside in his previous life, and now he realizes that it was Go who created it. He is truly impressed by that, because the golems that Go created achieved a lot more than all human soldiers combined in the war against the demons. The technology to create golems was lost when the Zarl's empire fell, but during the later part of the Great Invasion, prototypes were deployed by the Gargan Empire, and they were quite helpful. Kyle immediately calls out Syl to help, because she knows the best about the golems. Syl is impressed by Go's designs as well, because they are quite accurate, and she tells Kyle that there is a high chance of success.
He's thrilled to hear this because if they can start mass-producing golems now, they will have a much better chance to win when the battle with the demon starts. He climbs on Go, telling him to build those golems as soon as possible, but he replies that they will take another 10 years. Kyle tells him to bring that time down to 1 year, and if he needs funds, he's got him covered. He immediately dumps out a bag full of Zarl's coins, and Go thanks him, promising to start working on the project quickly. Kyle then asks him to keep this between them, and Go tells him that he has other patrons as well. Kyle tells him to return their money immediately because he doesn't need any other sugar daddy. Go is really happy that he got the best investor possible, but Syl is a bit taken aback by Kyle's enthusiasm. On the other hand, the negotiations fail and Miranda returns empty-handed. She tells Gazus that she will return, but he tells her there is no need. Miranda just pouts and leaves. And after that, Kyle decides to approach the master blacksmith. He says that he needs a brilliant sword for a friend, but Gazus simply tells him that he is not accepting any orders at the moment. However, Go is there to advocate for his sugar daddy, sponsor, and he asks Gazus to at least hear him out. Gazus decides to listen to his son's request and turns around, quickly noticing Ursa's ears. He tells her to relax because he is not a racist, but Theron intervenes, saying that he needs a sword because his current one is not good enough. Gazus can tell that the sword is made by a skilled blacksmith from the sheath, and he says that not many swordsmen can honestly say that they need a better sword. However, Go advocates for him to. And then Theron says that he would like a sword like Kyle's if it is possible at all. Kyle unveils his sword at this, and Gazus is dumbfounded on seeing a legendary weapon in front of his eyes. He has seen other great weapons, but only one of them was even close to this.
He says that he can't make anything like this and asks them to come back later because he is no longer in a mood to talk. As Kyle's group leaves his house, they begin talking about the other legendary weapon that Gazius mentioned, and Sild starts sulking, saying that no weapon can compare to her. Later, Kyle talks to Sild, saying that they couldn't get an answer from Gazius, but at least the golem was a good find. He thinks that in the previous timeline, Go failed to make them and had to sell the blueprints to cover his debt, which is how they ended up in the Gargan Empire's hands. He feels that they should collab with the Empire because of their advanced technology. But at this point, when relations between them and Zergus are not that great, it could start a war. The next morning, he gets a surprise visit from Alzard, who wants to talk to his friend's son. He invites him and his friends for lunch and then a ride on top of the wyverns, and Kyle is shocked because the skills to ride wyverns are a state secret. Alzard tells him that it was Kyle's genius mom who came up with those techniques so he can see them. He gets nostalgic talking about her and then leaves, and just then, Sild comes out, saying that Alzard has a great amount of magic, and he might even be able to cast special grade spells someday. Later, Kyle goes to have dinner with him and takes Miranda along with him instead of his uncivilized friends. But just as they approach the dining room, he senses a powerful and evil presence. He quickly rushes inside the room and finds blood splattered everywhere and Alzard's dead body lying on the table with a demon woman standing in front of it. Kyle angrily yells at the demon, fully aware that he is facing the greatest foe of humans. He believes that not many humans of the current generation are aware of how strong demons are, and most of them wouldn't even recognize a demon if they saw one. However, he can tell from the horn on the woman's head and her menacing aura that she is a demon. He is quite tense himself because he is not ready to fight a demon yet, but he doesn't have much choice in this. The demon woman sighs before unleashing her claws and then charges at Kyle, who runs to face her. He uses his arm as a shield to block her claws and then hits her with a magic body blast. The demon takes a few steps back as a result of the damage, but while Kyle confidently taunts her, he knows that he is at a disadvantage. He doesn't have his sword or his armor, and he can't use much magic either. Luckily, the guards come running there just then, and as soon as the demon woman sees them, she runs away. Kyle can't even try to stop her, but he is really curious about why a demon would run away just because a couple more humans came to her location. Anyway, he turns his attention towards Alzard's corpse, and soon he finds that a lot of soldiers and employees at the embassy were killed, but no one saw or heard anything until later. On the other hand, Go is learning the science of golem creation from Sildanya, and she's impressed that he is so smart at his age. This makes Go curious about the Loli's age, but before Sild can say anything, Lys comes there to invite both of them to tea. As they have tea and snacks, Go asks about Kyle, and Urza tells him that he went to have lunch with a high-profile man from the Empire, but since they are a bunch of mannerless brutes, he didn't take them along. Meanwhile, Tharun keeps sighing because he has still not received an answer from Gazius about his new sword. He suddenly gets an idea and asks Go if he has heard about a sword comparable to Kyle's that Gazius mentioned. Go thinks that he must be talking about the holy sword Rand that was forged in Cairn 2,000 years ago by a legendary dwarf blacksmith. It is said that the hero Randolph used the sword to kill the demon lord of his time, and it received the name because of the hero. Go says that the sword is apparently still in the city, and Tharun gets really excited on hearing this. Go believes that the sword will probably be with a governor, and Tharun begins scheming an evil plan to get his hands on it. However, Go warns him that the sword is a national treasure and he won't get it so easily. He doesn't listen to him and instead asks the boy if he has any real enemies, unlike the debt collectors he faced yesterday. Go doesn't understand what he means, and Tharun says that the house is surrounded by 10 people with intense bloodlust. He can sense that they are strong, so he decides to step outside to deal with them. However, he feels that some of them might get past him and tells the girls to be on their guard. Once he leaves, Urza tells Go to hide, but he wants to help. Sild tells him that they are too weak to help anyone right now and tells him to follow her. Outside, the thugs get into position, but just as they are about to open the door, Tharun kicks it with full force, knocking a couple of them out with it. He then pats the nearest thug, saying that he found someone whom he can torture until he reveals who sent him here. The guy panics, but Tharun knocks him out with one punch before telling the rest to run away if they want to live. However, they attack him without listening to his advice, and Tharun is not really happy about it. Meanwhile, a couple of thugs sneak inside the house where Urza and Lise are ready to face them. Urza notices the poison on their knives and tells Lise to be careful, who takes a deep breath to calm herself and then shows off her boxing training, knocking Baldy quite quickly. On the other hand, the other thug attacks Urza, but her water spirit blocks his knife before trapping him in a water bubble. He passes out quickly, and then Urza sends the water spirit back. After that, the girls tie up the thugs they knocked down to interrogate them later, and Go is scared of them because he didn't think they would be so strong. Just then, Tharun also returns with the thug that he has captured, and he starts the interrogation process. He directly asks the thug to spill out who sent him and what was his mission. When he doesn't reply, he asked him to cooperate or the 2 women behind him will torture him so much that he would pray for death. Both Urza and Lise are nervous on hearing this, and Tharun tells the thug that they are certified torture specialists. He hypes up Lise as the women who can turn anything into a torture instrument, and Urza as the sadist who will feed their target healing potions just as he is about to lose consciousness so that he suffers for longer. Tharun then tells the thug that he will beg for death, but the girls won't even allow him to die. However, Tharun declares that he is not as cruel as them, so he will give the thug a chance to escape with his life. He tells him to take the offer before the other 2 guys get up, because they would be more than happy to take this chance to reveal everything they know in exchange for their lives. The thug folds and says that their mission was just to kidnap Go, and they were told to kill anyone who got in their way. Go gets worried on hearing this, and remarks that lately a lot of people have gone missing in the city, but no one knows the reason. Tharun realizes that the cases are connected, and he asks the thug what happens to the people they kidnap. He replies that they just dropped them in an abandoned house outside the city, and that is the end of their job. Tharun remarks that they must be a stupid gang to target people in broad daylight, and the thug gets pissed at this. He says that they are more sneaky usually, but since everyone here is an outsider, they thought killing them would be easier than waiting for the right chance. While this discussion is going on inside, a demon arrives outside the house and begins charging a powerful magic attack. Tharun doesn't even realize it at first, as he keeps questioning the thug, but just as he senses danger, he tells everyone to get down. The thug, however, doesn't have this luxury, and he gets hit point blank by the powerful attack from the demon. Luckily, everyone else survives the explosion, and Lise and Urza get ready to chase after the attacker. Tharun tells them to give up because the opponent was really strong and they can't handle him. Just then, Sild comes out of hiding munching on snacks, and he tells Tharun that he has good judgment because the enemy that just attacked them was a demon, and they couldn't have beaten them if they worked together. Later, they unite with Kyle and Miranda, and both parties update each other with what happened. Miranda says that the situation is quite grim because even though it was clear that a demon killed Alzard, the Gargan Empire is going to use this chance to pressure us. It will probably say that the Zergus Empire is working with demons and will try to bully us diplomatically, and that is just one of our problems. Sild says that since the demons are involved in this case, they have to be very careful because if the demons want, they can destroy the entire city without much difficulty. Kyle also knows that, and he says that before they look into the demons, they should learn more about the kidnappings and find if the governor has anything to do with them. Miranda admits that she knows about the kidnappings, and she also thinks that the governor can be connected to them, but she still can't believe that he would put the citizens of his own city in danger. While they are discussing this matter, a servant comes running in, telling them that the governor's mansion is on fire. By the time Kyle and others reach there, the mansion has been completely burnt to the ground, and now everyone is certain that someone shady is behind it because they wanted to cover their tracks. Miranda tells them that they couldn't find the body of the governor, and that is even more confusing, because he was too sick to move. Lise asks if the demons did this too, but Kyle thinks that it is not the demons who are behind it. Miranda also believes that they are too strong and proud to use arson as their weapon, and that only leaves the governor as the suspect behind this fire. She says that they need to find him quickly, and Kyle remembers how her strategic thinking and expertise at handling logistics made her a key figure in the war against the demons. Just then, Go arrives there worried about Gazius because he was summoned by the governor a few hours before the fire. He is still missing, and Kyle thinks that the governor tried to get rid of Gazius because he was a candidate to become the next governor. On the other hand, Miranda freaks out and falls to the ground blaming herself for this situation because she nominated Gazius to be the next governor. She begins crying as she wonders what they can do now, and Kyle can't understand why she's so frantic. Suddenly, he remembers that in the previous timeline, Miranda got drunk once and told him that she had a lover once, but he died because of her, and she gave up on her emotions altogether after that. Kyle is flabbergasted as he realizes that Gazius and Miranda are dating, but turns out it is not even a secret, as Go already knows that. As he tells Theron and others about the relationship between the two, Kyle takes care of the feverish Miranda. He thinks that this was the incident which Miranda mentioned in the past life, and he tries to remember more details that can help him save Gazius if he is still alive. Kyle suddenly remembers the drunk Miranda mumbling something about finding the underground passage sooner, and he realizes that it is the answer he is looking for. He immediately wears his armor and goes outside, telling Urza to come with him to the governor's mansion because he needs her help to find something. Theron decided to join him because he plans to find the Holy Sword, and Lise can't be left behind either. Kyle then asks Go to look after Miranda while they try to find the secrets hidden in the underground passage. Soon they reach the rubble of the mansion, and Urza asks Kyle what does he want her to do. He asks her to summon an earth spirit to remove the rubble from the field and find an underground passage. Urza snaps on hearing this because summoning spirits and keeping them in this world takes a lot of mana, and the rubble is spread over such a huge area that she will run out of mana before she can even cover 1/10 of it. She asks Kyle if he wants her to waste her energy for an underground passage that might not even be there, and he affirms. He tells her that mana is not a problem because he has dozens of mana potions for her to replenish it. Urza loses a few years of her life on seeing the mana potions because they taste absolutely diabolical. Kyle begs her to help him because she might be the only person who can save Gazius from certain death. Theron and Lise request her to help too, and Urza, the pushover, folds. As she marches to the rubble field with the box of mana potions, Kyle asks Theron if he is sure that he saw a male demon earlier. Theron affirms, and Kyle gets worried because that means there are at least 2 demons in Cairn right now. With that, Urza and the others keep searching for the underground passage through the rubble. She has already drunk a lot of mana potions when she suddenly notices something strange on the ground. She does some digging and finally finds the underground passage, much to Kyle's relief. The group heads into the underground passage, and Kyle tells everyone to be careful because they might face the demons up ahead. Theron replies that the male demon felt incredibly strong, almost as strong as his mom when she is serious. Kyle thinks that is an apt comparison because Theron's mom is a true monster too. Then he tells the girls that they probably shouldn't come with them because Urza is exhausted and Lise might not be able to handle a demon. Lise lashes out at him and tells him that women can do everything men can. Urza agrees with her, and Kyle realizes that he can't send them away at this rate. He thinks that with Theron here, they should be fine, and even if a particularly strong demon arrives, he should be able to protect the girls. Just then, Lise notices a door at the end of the tunnel, and they immediately rush towards it. They enter a room with a magic circle on the floor and the dried-up corpse of a man in its center. Kyle panics on seeing this because this reminds him of the creepy scene he saw in the Demon King's castle in his previous life. Just then, Syl appears from the sword and begins examining the magic circle and the crystal floating above it. She quickly determines that it is being used to conduct a forbidden ceremony to absorb power from people and convert it into mana. Everyone is horrified to hear this, and then Kyle recognizes that the man in the center of the magic circle is the servant they met the other day. On the other side of the room, there is a heap of dead people who they realize are the people kidnapped from the city. Syl then notices that the scale of the magic is not quite huge, and the crystal which is being used as a catalyst will soon explode. She thinks that it will blow the entire city from the face of Earth, but Kyle is more interested about what kind of spell they're trying to cast with this much power. Syl doesn't have a certain answer to that question, and before she can study the magic circle further, she notices that someone is approaching them. They hide behind a rock as the two demons arrive there, and it seems they're in the middle of a disagreement about their mission to collect information while working with a human. The female demon asks him if it was necessary to kill all the people at the embassy, and the male demon replies that it was the request of their human collaborator to do that. He assures her that even though he killed some people, the casualties were not enough to create major disturbances. Then he tells her that it doesn't matter if she is pissed that we have to work with humans because our mission is to obtain an item that the Demon King really wants, and we must swallow our pride to complete his order. He then unleashes his powers and burns the dried body of the servant, saying that this is enough trash disposal for today. The demons then head outside to get some fresh air, and Kyle and his friends are quite shocked by what they learned. They decide to find Gazis and Governor Bax before confronting them, so head deeper into the underground passage and come to a luxurious room where Gazis is tied up. They rush to free him immediately, but Lex Luthor from Walmart, who has already crossed his best before date, starts yelling at them. He asks them who the hell are they and what are they doing in his man cave. Kyle realizes that he's the governor, and Bax also realizes that they are the messengers from the Zergus Empire. He says that both the Gargon and the Zergus Empire are trying to control their city, but he won't let that happen. He declares that he will protect it at all costs, and Theron tells him that sacrificing his own people doesn't exactly count as protecting. Kyle asks if something is going to happen to Karen, and Gazis replies that their mines are soon going to run out of minerals. Bax panics at this and asks Gazis not to reveal their secrets. The blacksmith, however, claims that it is too late to hide the truth. He says that once the mines die out, the city will lose its value. The blacksmiths will scatter, and Karen will lose its autonomy and fully become a part of the Zergus Empire. Bax Luthor says that he won't let that happen, but then he starts coughing like crazy. Syl realizes that he has 2 months to live at max, and Kyle thinks that the demons took the advantage of his weakness to turn him to their side. Just then, the male demon arrives there, calling Kyle a racist for thinking that demons manipulate weak humans. He says that they just offered the old governor a deal, and he took it. He says that the demons offered to conduct the forbidden ritual that would create more ores in the mines, and Kyle asks him what does he get in exchange. The demon replies that their king wanted the holy sword Rand that was used to defeat a demon lord in the past. Everyone is shocked to hear that the holy sword is here, and the governor is going to trade it off to the demons. He says that his initial mission was just to gather info, and he started with Karen because this city produces the best weapons on the human continent. Once he got to know about the problems they faced, he reached out to the governor, and that is how they made the deal. Just then, the female demon comes there, telling her partner that he has said too much. He panics as he tells her that he's just going to kill these humans, so it's not a problem. However, Kyle draws his sword and challenges him to fight, assuring him that he won't lose to him. The demon is flustered and gets ready to attack, but his partner tries to stop him because they need to avoid fighting. She also reminds him that they need to get the holy sword, but he says that they can just kill the witnesses and rush home. Bax starts walking towards the demon, telling him to fulfill his promise of helping the city, but Theron rushes to stop him since he needs that holy sword more badly than anyone else. Kyle tells the governor to give up on his dreams of saving the city because the demons are not going to help him. He tells him that their catalyst is at its limit and they can't control it to revive the mines. The demon is impressed that Kyle could figure that out and says that it doesn't matter now because getting rid of this city will be a good reward for the mission as well. Bax gets furious when he learns that he got played by demons and curses them, but Theron knocks him out and hands him to Gazis. The male demon then tells his partner to deal with the 2 girls while he deals with the 2 boys, but Kyle wants Theron to support the girls instead. However, he refuses, saying that he needs to figure something out on his own before that and leaves the battlefield. Kyle is pissed at him, but he decides to fight the male demon alone, aware that it is not going to be an easy fight. Meanwhile, the female demon tells Lys and Urza to run away because she doesn't want to kill any humans. They think that it is a trap, but she tells them that she doesn't need to trap someone weaker than her. Well, Lys and Urza take that personally, and Lys attacks the demon girl only to get kicked away instantly. The demon girl then attacks Urza, who somehow is able to dodge her initial attack and summon a fire spirit.
She attacks the demon girl, but she easily evades everything and lands a powerful kick to knock her down as well. Meanwhile, Theron just watches everything from the sidelines, and Syl joins him, asking if he doesn't plan to help his friends. Theron believes that the demon girl isn't going to kill Urza or Lys, so he can let them get their asses whooped to learn a lesson. Instead, he is more curious about a small red cube that he swiped from the governor's pocket while helping him earlier. Syl examines it and finds that it is a magic device that can be used to hide other magic items. Theron tells her that when the demon mentioned the holy sword earlier, Bax looked behind him, and he figured out that he was hiding the sword nearby. Syl is impressed by his observation skills and tells him that his theory might be right. Theron immediately goes to the governor's seat and shatters the magic cube, and the location of the sword becomes visible. Meanwhile, Kyle is struggling in his fight against the demon man. He is being pushed back constantly, but unbothered by this, Theron reaches the location he can sense a powerful energy from, and a small pillar appears there out of nowhere. He destroys the pillar with his sword, revealing the holy sword Rand, and he picks it up, proudly declaring that he found the holy sword. Everyone looks at Theron immediately, but luckily his friends know exactly how to use this opportunity. While the demons are distracted by Theron, Kyle and the girls charge toward their opponents. Urza commands her fire spirit to attack the demon girl, who blocks the flame breath, but just then Lys attacks her from up close. While the demon seems to have dodged the surprise attack, she gets scratched by her punch and starts bleeding. Lys and Urza are now confident that they can win, but the demon mommy is pissed. She decides to get rid of them both when suddenly she hears the screams of her partner, who was lying on the ground after being humbled by Kyle. Turns out he's not even that hurt, but he has lost his horn, which is considered the pride of demons. Kyle steps on his pride, telling the demon that he knows that demons who lose their horns are considered an inferior species. Just then, Theron also joins the group, boasting about how the holy sword fits perfectly in his hands, and the female demon asks him to hand it over to her. He just scoffs at her audacity and says that he should test it out against the demons, but Kyle has another plan. He suggests that they end the fight for now and go home safely. Everyone is shocked to hear that, but Kyle explains that they have injured people on their side, and he wants to get them to hospital instead of fighting. However, he doesn't want to leave the fight incomplete as well, so he suggests that they return to this place 3 days later for a duel. If the demons can win that duel, they can take the holy sword and the horn. Theron refuses to bet his sword, but Kyle ignores him like terms and conditions under a game. He says that if the demons lose, they have to give them all the information they have about other demons infiltrating the human continent and their discoveries. He assures the demon that they will fight one-on-one, and taunts him, asking if he is going to refuse a duel against a human whom he thinks inferior. The demon accepts his challenge and blasts a hole in the wall to get out with his partner. Once the demons leave, Kyle and others also return to the city. Miranda runs to hug Gazis as soon as she sees him, but Kyle has to go on and interrupt their emotional reunion. He asks them about what is going on with Governor Bax, and Gazis says that the old man was not always like this. He cared for Karn and was a good governor once. But as things started getting tough for the city, he went batshit crazy. He says that Bax started going in the wrong direction out of desperation, and when Gazis found out about the kidnappings, he tried to stop him. However, Bax told him to join his side and even threatened to kill Go and Miranda if he spoke out to anyone about them. That is why Gazis tried to distance himself from everyone, but in the end he got caught up in the governor's mess. With this topic out of the way, Gazis brings up the holy sword Rand, and Kyle asks him to let Theron keep it, because he found it. Gazis refuses because the sword is a national treasure of Karn, but Kyle reminds him that they saved his life, and before that they saved Go's life from the attackers as well as Miranda's life from the demon at the embassy. Gazis isn't convinced with this, so Kyle decides to improve his offer. He knows that there is no more mithril in Karn's mines, and he pulls out a chunk of high-quality mithril ore for him.
Gazis almost starts drooling on seeing the chunk of rare metal, and Kyle says that he found it in some ancient ruins and brought it here because he wanted a skilled blacksmith to create weapons using it. Then he starts glazing Gazis, calling him the greatest blacksmith on the continent who might forge a holy sword someday. He offers to supply him as much mithril as he needs for his projects, and says that it should be enough to make up for one holy sword. Gazis is still not sure, but then Miranda says that the holy sword Rand was never officially in Karn, so he can take it, and Gazis simply agrees with her. After that, Kyle hands the master blacksmith a blueprint and asks him to make an item for him. Gazis says he can get it done in 3 days, but Kyle wants it in 2 days because he has a duel after that. Gazis calls him a pain in the ass, but still heads to his forge to complete the project. Later that night, Kyle catches up with his friends and finds that the girls are really motivated to fight the female demon again because she basically humiliated them during the entire fight. Theron, on the other hand, is disappointed because he didn't get to use the holy sword. Kyle tells him that they'll get other chances for it because first they need to defeat the demons and get information out of them. Theron tells him that the demons were on a different level and defeating them in a fair duel might not be easy, but Kyle replies that he asked for 3 days of prep time for that reason only. The next day, Kyle and Syl head over to the underground area again, and Syl suggests that she drain the magic power stored in the catalyst before it explodes, but Kyle asks if she can transfer the power to the Divine Dragon's heart instead, because that may come in handy later. Syl likes the idea and says that it won't be a big deal, which brings Kyle to his second question. He asks her if it's even possible to create more mithril using the spell the demons were talking about. Syl says that it's not possible, and the best case scenario is using magic to pull out mithril from deep inside the earth. But it's not guaranteed to work, and it would change the geography of the area enough to destroy the entire city. With that, she starts absorbing the catalyst's power into the dragon's heart, and Kyle returns to the city. He spends his time watching over Urza and Lisa's training and visiting Gazis to keep reminding him of the deadline. 2 days pass like this, and on the night before the duel, Theron is snoring peacefully, but that gives double anxiety to Syl. Kyle tells her that it's a good thing that Theron is relaxed because they might need his help to win against the demons tomorrow. He says that currently they need information on demons more than anything else because that can help them win the future war. The next day, Kyle and his friends head to the underground passage, but since the Dumb forgot to specify the time of the duel earlier, the demons have not yet arrived. The girls decide to take a tea break in the meantime, and Kyle asks them if they have any plans for their fight with the demon woman. As they talk about their plans, the demons arrive there, and they are low-key disgusted on seeing them chilling when they are about to fight much stronger enemies. Kyle tries to act like a total doofus with cookie crumbs on his face as he challenges the demons. The female demon asks if he is trying to insult them, but her partner has learned from the past, and he tells her that Kyle is just trying to make them loosen their guard by acting like an idiot. Well, seeing that his taunts are not working, Kyle decides to get to business. However, before starting the duel, he tells the demon that they should head to a more open place because 2 fights can't happen at the same time in the cramped cave. The male demon agrees to his suggestion, confident that he will utterly destroy the human even if he has some tricks up his sleeve. He leaves the cave with Kyle while the female demon gets ready to fight the girls. Theron stays back as the witness, telling the demon woman that he'll give her the sword if she wins, and Syl is also there to alert Kyle if anything happens here. The demon woman says that she doesn't want to fight, but if it is for the holy sword, she is not going to show mercy. She unleashes her full power because she is not underestimating Urza and Lisa this time, and then asks them to surrender if they want to live. When they don't surrender, she immediately charges at Lise, forcing her to guard herself against the barrage of punches.
As Lise gets away from the demon woman, Urza summons her fire spirit to attack her. The demon woman dodges that easily, and the fire attack heads towards Lise, who hides behind a rock pillar to protect herself. The female demon finds their behavior a little sus, but she decides to deal with the magic user first. She dashes towards Urza, using her fire spirit as a footstand to jump up. However, Urza uses an artifact to summon an earth spirit that blocks her attack and grabs her hand. The demon woman was not expecting this, and Lise uses this chance to launch a surprise attack at her. However, the demon manages to counter with a sharp kick that barely grazes Lise, but still rattles her. As Lise tries to get back in her groove, the demon woman breaks the earth spirit's hand and attacks Urza, knocking her down. Syl remarks that the demon is much stronger than the girls, and tells Theron to help them. but he believes in true gender equality and says that women should face their enemies themselves instead of relying on men. Also, he remarks that the situation isn't that bad because Urza and Lys still think they can win. The demon woman attacks them again, and Urza summons another earth spirit. The demon says she will tear through the spirit, but just then, Lys kicks the spirits back, sending a huge block of stone towards the female demon that takes her by surprise. Before she can even process that the girls used the earth spirit as a decoy and a weapon, Lys lands another powerful punch, shattering the rock and hitting her gut. Furious, she charges ahead to finish the fight. But Lys stands in her place till the last moment before landing another devastating punch to her belly, forcing the demon to her knees. At the same time, Kyle and the male demon reach an isolated room to start their duel, and the demon is suspicious of a trap lying in wait for him. On the other side, the fight between the demon mommy and the girls is not yet over. Despite being injured, the female demon charges at Lys, almost gouging her eyes out, but Lys dodges her attack and deals a deadly body blow, forcing her back. She then gets aside, letting Urza hit the demon lady with her fire spirit's most powerful attack. As the demon is engulfed in flames, Lys and Urza celebrate their victory and head back to their friends. However, the female demon is not dead yet, and she stands in the middle of the flames farming Ara, waiting for the right chance to attack. However, before she can start the second round of the fight, she wants to know how Lys dodged her attack, because she is much faster than any human. Lys thinks about it for a second, and then calls the demon woman a one-trick pony. She explains that her moves are really straightforward and easy to predict. Urza agrees and says that she was fighting better when she was holding back. The girls tell the demon that maybe this is the first time she has put her life on the line, which means she lacks combat experience. They add that she looks really earnest in real life, and that reflects in her fighting style, which makes her easy to read. The demon woman is really embarrassed by this, but she realizes that the girls are not lying. So when they tell her to get ready for round 2, she simply admits that she lost. Urza and Lys are confused by this, and the demon tells them that she is not afraid to lose or to die, but the demon lord has ordered her to return alive. Now that she has lost once, she can't take the risk of fighting them again because that may end up with her dying. She surrenders to them, even though it shatters her pride, and asks what should she do now. Urza and Lys are lost for ideas, and they wonder if they should just let the female demon go, because she doesn't seem like she's going to create trouble. However, Theron yells at them from behind and asks if they are really stupid enough to let a demon go free. The girls understand this, but Lys keeps on saying that only Theron can be so cold-hearted as to kill an enemy who has already surrendered. He gets pissed at her for this, but Urza ignores them both, and recalls that Kyle wanted some information out of her about the demon spies. The female demon tells them that she and her partner were the only ones sent by the demon lord, and if someone else came to the human territory by themselves, she has no idea about it. The girls don't know what else to ask her now, and the demon says that if either of them was a guy, she would have slept with him to pay the penalty of losing the fight. The girls get flustered on hearing this, and then the demon woman says that maybe she can sleep with Kyle in their place. Well, neither Lys nor Urza is having that, and they tell the demon to get lost immediately. She begins walking away, but then stops midway, asking the girls if they would like to at least introduce themselves before they part ways. Lys and Urza introduce themselves, and then the demon woman tells them that her name is Yuliga. Yuliga leaves with that, and Syl finds her quite polite for a demon. However, as she starts gapping about the demons in her age to Theron, she finds that he is missing from his seat. He is running towards Yuliga with his sword drawn, telling her that he would like to try his weapon on her.
On the other hand, before Kyle's fight begins, the male demon asks him where is his horn. Kyle shows him that he is carrying the horn with him, and he can take it if he wins. The demon is pleased to see this, and he gets ready to fight. Kyle decides to get close to him and finish the fight before the demon can get the chance to spam his magic attacks. He boosts his physical abilities and charges ahead, but the demon doesn't move. Instead, he uses his arm to block Kyle's sword to hold him in place so that he can hit him from up close. Kyle manages to dodge the full impact of the attack somehow, but he still takes serious damage. He realizes that the demon is using his full power this time, and he can't win with a strategy he prepared earlier. The demon realizes that Kyle is having second thoughts, and he proudly declares that he killed countless humans like him in the previous war between demons and humans. He then starts spamming his magic orbs at Kyle, who can only dodge them.
He still gets hit by some of the attacks and decides to risk it all to close the gap between them. However, the demon simply uses the force to his advantage and pushes him against the wall of the cave. As he walks towards Kyle to finish him off, Kyle suddenly gets an idea. He takes out the demon's horn, threatening to shatter it if he moves. The demon says that he values his horn, but not enough to sacrifice his life for it, but Kyle thinks that he is bluffing. He calls his bluff by tossing the horn up in the air, and while the demon is distracted by it, he tries stabbing him and pushing him all the way to the other corner of the room. However, he missed the demon's body completely on purpose because he had another plan in mind. Suddenly, the wall behind them collapses, and the demon is almost pushed off the edge into a lava river. Without missing a beat, Kyle attacks him from behind, but the demon is able to evade his attack and push him back with his attacks. He even manages to disarm Kyle and tells him that no matter how good he is, a human cannot beat a demon. He prepares a huge magic ball to finish him off, but then Kyle suddenly pulls out a bottle of Diddy serum from his pocket and throws it at the demon. At first, the demon doesn't even realize what is happening, but then he finds himself unable to move his hand. Turns out the Diddy serum was actually super glue, and now the demon can't move from his place. But that is not all. Kyle has another surprise prepared for him, and coincidentally, it is hiding right behind the mound he is leaning on. He grabs a chain and pulls it out of the lava before swinging it towards the demon. The demon screams in pain as the red-hot Ghost Rider chain tightens around his body, but he is still confident that he can break through it with magic. However, Kyle tells him that magic won't work against the chain because it is made out of mithril. The demon is dumbfounded to hear this, but then Kyle points his sword at him and asks him to answer all his questions. The demon surrenders and tells Kyle to shoot his questions. First, Kyle asks if the current Demon King really wants peace with humans. He affirms, saying that the current Demon Lord is Ruiza, the daughter of the previous Demon King. She has had some interactions with humans during the previous war and she doesn't hate them as much. Meanwhile, an invisible bug is lingering around the room, but the demon notices it and he keeps an eye on its movement while answering Kyle's questions. Kyle asks if there aren't any demons who stand against her, and he replies that there are many demons who want war, and they were the ones who forced Ruiza into sending them here. Kyle then asks if the demons from the pro-war faction are trying to overthrow the current Demon Lord, and he replies that Ruiza is incredibly powerful, and defeating her won't be easy for anyone. As for his final question, Kyle asks the demon if he has met a hornless black-winged demon who is a candidate to become the next Demon King. The demon replies that no one would accept a hornless demon as their king, and on top of that, he doesn't know any black-winged demon powerful enough to be a candidate. Kyle has heard everything and he decides that the demon is no longer useful to him. He decides to finish him off, but the demon begs him to stop, offering to set up a meeting between him and Ruiza so that he can directly talk to her. Kyle likes the offer and lowers his sword, but the demon is not planning to cooperate with him for real. He commands his invisible bug to attack him from behind, but Kyle slashes it in two without even looking at it. He tells the demon he was staring at the bug so intensely that he didn't even need to turn around to attack it. Kyle knows that the demon can create these invisible insects called assassin bugs to launch sneak attacks on his enemies, killing them without leaving any trace. The demon is shocked by this and asks how does he know about his power, and Kyle further stuns him by revealing that he even knows his name. He tells the demon named Garnius that they have met before and he is completely bewildered by that. He doesn't understand what is going on, and Kyle says that in his previous lifetime, he felt a strange fear when he faced him because he was crazy loyal to the Demon King. In this lifetime, he can't sense that loyalty, and that makes Garnius much less scary. Kyle then kicks him into the lava below, saying that Garnius killed many of his friends in the war, but he was the one they captured and tortured to learn the location of the Demon Lord's castle. Kyle says that without him they wouldn't have succeeded in their suicide attempt, but Garnius doesn't listen to all that and just keeps on cursing him. However, he doesn't have enough points in his defense stats to endure the lava for long, and soon he drowns into the lava, going silent forever. Meanwhile, Theron's attack doesn't hit Ulaga,
Instead, he kills an assassin bug sent after her by Garnius. The girls rush over, yelling at Theron for trying to kill an unarmed opponent, but he claims he actually saved her life. Syl examines the remains of the assassin bug and confirms it was sent by Garnius, likely to silence Ulaga before she could report he lost his horn to a human. As the group bonds over their shared hatred for Garnius, Lys praises Theron, saying he's a good guy deep down. He eats it up, but the truth is he was totally going to kill Ulaga and only changed targets instinctively. Ulaga, however, buys the hero act and says she owes him one. Theron immediately tries to cash in that debt by inviting her for Netflix and chill, earning him a hard elbow from Lys. Lys just scoffs and walks away, saying she'll remember them. While the girls discuss how much stronger she'll be next time they meet, Theron is stressing over Kyle's order to kill her. He can't exactly do it now, so he'll just have to come up with an excuse for Kyle later. The next day, as Theron practices with his new sword, Kyle asks his thoughts on the demons. Theron admits that while they were strong, they didn't seem as terrifying as the stories and felt surprisingly human. Kyle agrees, figuring this is why Theron let Ulaga go. He was mad at first, but now realizes Theron must have judged her not to be a true threat. As Kyle reflects on how peace has changed both races, the girls arrive, embarrassed but fine after their injuries.
While Kyle goes to talk with Gazis, Go pulls Syl aside, saying he has something important to discuss. Kyle finds the old blacksmith already recovered from the insanity of the past week. Knowing Kyle's crew is leaving the next day, Gazis has already prepared some farewell gifts. Kyle's jaw hits the floor when he sees them, 2 custom-made sword sheets for him and Theron. Gazis proudly explains they're pure mithril, perfectly crafted to hold their legendary blades. Meanwhile, Go is shooting his shot, begging Syl to stay with him forever, and he's not just talking about a tech internship. But Syl is completely oblivious to the boy's crush. She tells him he's smart enough to finish the golems on his own, explaining that she belongs to Kyle and has to go wherever he goes. This shatters Go's heart because the poor moron has no idea he's getting friend-zoned by a sword spirit. As Kyle shows up and whisks Syl away, Go curses him for stealing the little one away when he's already got Orza and Lys. After that, Kyle meets with Miranda and gets the news. Governor Bax finally kicked the bucket a couple of days ago. He confessed everything about the kidnappings on his deathbed, so the city's internal problems are finally resolved. But Miranda is worried about the bigger issue, the massacre at the Gargan embassy. Kyle knows it's serious. Miranda lays it out. The Gargan Empire will definitely blame the Zergus Empire for the attack, and with Queen Milma canceling her engagement at the same time, they're practically guaranteed to take hostile action. Still, Miranda believes they can manage, especially since Gazis has officially accepted the offer to become the new governor of Cairn, on the condition that he can still work as a blacksmith whenever he wants. Then Kyle flips his detective switch and hits Miranda with a bombshell accusation. Was she the one behind Go's recent deck problems? She's completely taken aback, but Kyle lays out his reasoning. Because Gazis was avoiding her due to Bax's threats, she got impatient and decided to use Go as a pawn to get close to him again. She arranged for shady people to lend him money, then waited for the thugs to move in so she could swoop in, play the hero, and win Gazis over. Miranda completely falls apart because Kyle's theory is dead on. Luckily for her, he has zero proof. She's relieved he can't ruin her reputation, but Kyle has no intention of doing that. He tells her that if she truly feels guilty, she can make it right by keeping Go's golem restoration project a complete secret from everyone, including the Zergus Empire. Surprised by the demand, she quickly agrees. Kyle is glad, but Miranda still isn't sure Go can even succeed. Kyle tells her he invested because he's 100% confident in Go's skills. Miranda concedes that if he succeeds, the golems would be a massive asset to the nation, and she'd have to report it eventually. Kyle gets her point and asks her to keep it under wraps for just 3 years, until a working prototype is ready. After that, there'll be no need to hide. He then tells her to smile, because she doesn't look good with a frown. She's low-key pissed at his attitude, but also senses he's hiding something. She asks if they've ever met before for him to be so frank with her. He just tells her this is the first time. The next day, as the party leaves the city, Farron is a bit disappointed he didn't get to test out his new sword. Kyle tells him he'll get his chance soon. Enough.
First, they need to report back to the capital. Meanwhile, Lise and Orza are stressing. Their situation is way worse now than when they were first sent to Cairn. Malma breaking off the engagement is one thing, but the assassination of a major Gargan figure is guaranteed to blow up relations between the two countries. But Kyle tells them the demons are the bigger problem. He suspects they're trying to pit the human nations against each other to soften them up for a sneak attack, and the only way to stop it is to unite all the humanoid races. At the same time, news of the assassination and Gargan's military preparations reaches Queen Mildma. Worried, she immediately dispatches Commander Kilren and the Old Minister August on an urgent mission. Soon after, Lise spots their convoy and the party joins up with them. Theron, Lise, and Orza are killing time in Y carriage playing Uno, while Kyle gets invited to ride with Kilren and August. August thanks him for accepting the urgent request to participate in the peace conference between the Zergus and Gargan empires. Kyle tells him it's the right thing to do and rehearses his lines. The assassination was 100% the work of demons, and the Zergus Empire had nothing to do with it. Kilren thanks him again, stressing that the peace between two nations rests on his shoulders. As the pressure builds, August tells him to chill. Either we get peace, or a war breaks out and one country gets annihilated. Kilren is not feeling his chill vibe, but August dismisses her, saying she's not used to this level of responsibility. He, on the other hand, has been to Gargan plenty of times and is confident he can handle it. Pissed off, Kilren fires back, remarking how August climbed the ranks by licking the former king's boots. The two start throwing shade at each other, while Kyle just wishes he could teleport back to his friends. Soon they reach the Gargan Empire and head straight for the capital. Kyle wonders if he'll get to see one of the Gargan princes, who was a friend and ally in his past life. Turns out, the prince is already in the city for the conference. His two brothers are with him, discussing the assassination of their court magician, Alzard. While the eldest prince, Loki, believes the demon story, the middle prince thinks the Zergus Empire is lying, arguing that no random warrior could be stronger than their second-best magician. However, the third prince, Mazer, has a gut feeling that the hero from the Zergus Empire was actually the killer. The eldest prince decides to trust his instincts, since Mazer is usually right about this stuff. Later that day, at a pre-conference party, Kyle is trying to catch a break in the garden when a goth beauty approaches him. They can't talk for long, though, because Prince Mazer himself arrives, and the girl quickly leaves. Kyle asks Mazer if he needs something, and the prince gets straight to the point. He wants Kyle to serve him. Kyle politely tries to refuse, but Mazer cuts him off, telling him that if he doesn't agree, he will be eliminated right here, right now. He explains that Kyle is too capable to be allowed to become an enemy, so if he refuses to become an ally, he has to die. Kyle is floored by his words, but he realizes this is perfectly in character for the man he once knew and trusted. At the same time, on the demon continent, Yoliga reaches the Demon Lord's castle and presents her report. She tells the Demon Lord Ruza that they failed to claim the Holy Sword Rand and her partner lost his life. She stands ready to accept any punishment for her failure, but Ruza just keeps staring at her with a poker face, hiding her true plans for the future.
And with that, not only the final episode, but the entire season comes to a close. So, what did you think of the anime as a whole? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to smash that like button to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content.